The beautiful man had used the pitiful boy as nothing more than an outlet, tormenting him for an entire night. But when that beautiful man woke up the next morning, he had forgotten everything that happened. Once he was slightly more sober, he even asked the butler, "I was clearly at the bar last night. When did I get home?" "Oh, right. Some lunatics put something in my drink. Don't let me catch him." Meanwhile, the pitiful boy was dragging his aching body home alone. Just as he pushed the door open, he ran straight into his cousin, the so-called hero. The man even had the nerve to act clueless and ask him all sorts of questions. The protagonist couldn't admit he'd been assaulted, not when that person was the one in the video. With his face burning, he forced himself to answer the cousin's mocking questions one by one. Humiliation surged so strongly it made him dizzy with shame and pain. "From now on, don't expect me to help you with anything ever again. I'm going to take a shower. Don't bother me." As soon as the protagonist shut himself in the bathroom, the cousin pulled out his phone. "Looks like he'll be in there for a while. Now, how much should this video go for?" In the shower, the protagonist's eyes turned red. For an orphan like him, this was something he couldn't even bring himself to speak of. Humiliation and helplessness welled up inside him. He only prayed no one would ever find out. If no one knew, he could pretend it never happened and keep living as usual. Elsewhere, the handsome man was also showering, but thinking about how to find the boy and all the ways he could torment him. That night, the boy had nightmares again. He dreamed of the small, broken-down shack where his father locked him and his mother for years. His mother had gone insane inside that place, almost killing him. Those childhood horrors taught him to endure, no matter how painful. No one in this world cared about him. He learned early that he had to swallow every bitter truth alone. Feeling feverish, he walked out to the living room for a drink, only to run into his aunt. She immediately scolded him about how bad the family business was doing, hoping he could work more jobs. Or better, take out a loan in his own name to help them. Under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to bow his head. He forced himself to agree. But his cousin wasn't doing well either. That video he recorded had caused trouble. He was only supposed to secretly take pictures of who the rich client was spending time with. Instead, he went overboard and terrified the client, who warned him, this must never be known by a third person. Meanwhile, the pitiful boy, who had been bullied all night, just wanted a peaceful life. But fate refused to let him off. The handsome man's butler had investigated the incident and finally pieced the truth together. The one who drugged him and the one he had bullied were two completely different people. And the boy had no pheromone disorder, yet his compatibility score with the young master was 100%. That meant they could not simply ignore him. Later, the protagonist was working part-time at a cafe. The lady boss felt sorry for him after learning he worked several jobs a day. "I know your uncle's business isn't doing well, but you still have to take care of yourself. You can't pay back kindness with your health." She received a phone call and left to pick someone up, telling him to rest while no customers were around. After she left, the boy felt a wave of helplessness. It's not gratitude. I just don't want to be kicked out again. Maybe it was time to leave, just like all those years ago. But then someone pushed the door open. He thought the boss had forgotten something, until he turned around and his whole body froze. It was the man from that night. Panic surged instantly. The man said calmly to the butler, "We're here to meet someone." But the protagonist only breathed in sharply. This man truly didn't remember him? Good. He could pretend nothing ever happened. But then a sharp pain shot through him, and he forced himself to focus on the task at hand. The two were discussing the man's pheromone disorder. Judging from the woman's hair color, she was either his mother or sister, and very worried about his health. But he was completely indifferent. The protagonist walked toward them, carrying 2 iced Americanos. But due to nerves, he accidentally spilled one onto the man. He apologized frantically, but the man didn't seem to care. The moment the boy briefly brushed against him, the man's pheromone indicator blinked. His gaze turned icy. "Don't touch me. You're not needed here." A wave of violet pheromones suddenly flared. He had secretly splashed the second drink onto the protagonist. "Jin Zaehua, what are you doing?" The woman rushed to help the boy. He's not mentally stable. Please don't take it to heart. But the protagonist heard nothing, only the crushing fear of being recognized. Jin Zehua stepped forward and whispered, I'm the victim, yet you're the one acting pitiful. Who are you trying to fool? He pushed the woman out of the way, wanting to speak to the boy alone. Even though he was the one who had been hurt, he could only kneel and beg for mercy, sight so pitiful it made one's heart ache. But his apologies only disgusted Jin Zehua further. I can't believe I ever felt something for such a lowly insect. I've imagined countless ways to torture you once I found you. Using someone's body so casually, you should pay with your body. He began unbuckling his belt, not giving the protagonist any chance to refuse. What happened next could never pass any censorship. You can imagine yourself. One kneeling, one standing. We'll skip at least 8,000 words. The boy could only endure, and pray for it to end. Then the door opened. A dark silhouette entered. Young master, it's time to go. Jin Zehua didn't care and continued, but the boy nearly fainted from fear. The butler, pretending not to see anything, reported that the boy could suppress Jin Zehua's pheromone disorder. Jin Zehua finally buttoned up and stepped out. You're telling me the signal I've never sensed in my entire life comes from this filthy insect? Why should I believe that? He lifted the boy's shirt. Where is it? If it's really him, I should feel pleasure, but all I feel is disgust. Take him for another test. That night, the protagonist sat alone in his small room, Jin Zehua's business card lying on the floor. The butler had offered him a generous deal to become Jin Zehua's kept person, always on call, no title, nothing but a tool. It was humiliating, and the threat of the video loomed over him. He wanted to tell his cousin, but when he went to the cousin's room, he wasn't there. The cousin's phone kept buzzing on the desk. He shouldn't have touched it, but something compelled him. A few messages made his heart sink. He opened the photo gallery with trembling hands, and the moment the screen lit up, his entire world collapsed. It was the video of that night. Just then, the cousin walked in. Whew, nothing beats a hot shower. Why are you in my room? When he finally saw what the protagonist was doing, his cousin reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He lunged forward, snatching the phone from the protagonist's hands. Jin Zehua, what are these photos and videos? That night, you called me over on purpose, didn't you? You set me up. But Jin Zehua refused to admit anything. Don't you slander me. I'm not that kind of person. This is called being prepared. Who knows when it might come in handy? He scoffed. I asked around. The guy who slept with you isn't some ordinary rich boy. I heard he's from a powerful Chibol family, loaded with money. Since your body's already dirty, earning some cash from it isn't too much to ask, right? That was the moment the protagonist finally snapped. Jin Zehua, I'll kill you, you bastard. The two quickly got into a fight, shoving and punching wildly. Hearing the noise, the aunt, who always favored her own son, rushed in. Of course, she immediately took Jin Zehua's side. She even started hitting the protagonist. Holding up the phone, she pointed it at his face. Get out of this house. You're just like your dead father, a filthy creature. All the protagonist could do under her beating was endure. Meanwhile, Jin Zehua was still soaking in a warm bath, recalling how the protagonist had knelt and begged earlier. He snorted, Even if my pheromone disorder kills me, I'm never touching that poor brat again. The handsome and arrogant rich boy swore up and down that even dying would be better than touching the protagonist again. Yet less than 24 hours later, he dragged the boy into a pitch-black room. A true tsundere who lost instantly story. Because the protagonist's humiliation was exposed, the very family who wronged him kicked him out. Aunt, please let me explain. It was all my cousin's doing. Before he could finish, his aunt slapped him hard. You want Zehua to take the blame for you? I never imagined you were this kind of person. Her eyes burned with disgust. To think you'd do something so shameless climbing into your cousin's bed? If you dare lay a hand on Zehua, I won't let you walk out of this house with both legs intact. Get out. Don't ever come back. Just like your father, filthy. Carrying a small bag, the protagonist wandered alone through the brightly lit streets, with no home, nowhere to return to. In his memories, Zehua hadn't always been like this. Back then, his cousin treated him like a brother. He just wanted to keep a place in their house, to smile through the pain, to be the tool they wanted as long as he had a home. But this was the ending. Maybe if he died in some corner, no one would care either. At that moment, Jin Zaihua's personal assistant called him. If it weren't urgent, I wouldn't bother you. If you're willing to help, you'll be generously rewarded, please. For the first time, something in the protagonist shifted. His world had collapsed, yet someone still needed him. Even if it was only for exploitation, even if he was stepping into a predictable abyss. He ran toward it with no hesitation. When he arrived at the appointed place, the butler froze upon seeing him, but quickly replaced the shock with relief. "Please, come in." The moment he stepped inside, a pained, beast-like roar erupted from the bedroom. "After he came into contact with you today, his condition became uncontrollable. We weren't prepared, so it's far worse than usual. If we had the time, we would have talked things through, but right now, he needs your help more than anything." The bedroom door burst open. The roar instantly ceased. As the protagonist tried to suppress his fear, a hand shot out from the darkness and yanked him inside. Slide, the handsome young master suffered from a strange condition. Only tormenting the pitiful boy could ease the pain. And the small, helpless, powerless protagonist bowed before money and authority once again. He was dragged into the small dark room, and what followed was brutal beyond words. Another 8,000 words omitted. Please imagine as needed. The protagonist thought the nightmare would end with dawn. He forgot one thing. The rich boy would wake up too. In Jin Zewa's eyes, Yan Hong was nothing more than a money-hungry bug. Worthless, disposable. So he used him without mercy, without restraint, tormenting him a second time. Another 8,000 words omitted. Afterward, Yan Hong finally understood what it meant to have his mind and body shattered. While Jin Zehua slept, he painfully picked up his clothes and tried to escape. But when he opened the door, the butler was waiting with fresh clothes. After showering and changing, the protagonist was dragged to the living room to sign a mountain of documents, a 1-year confidentiality agreement, and a contract to help relieve Jin Zehua's pheromone disorder. The price? 10 million won per month. Once he signed, he just wanted to leave, but the butler insisted he stay for observation, meaning they would temporarily live together. "How long?" the protagonist asked with trembling hands. 3 to 5 times a week at least. The protagonist fell silent. He had nowhere else to go. Maybe this was the best option he had. Suddenly, Jin Zehua stepped behind him, snatching the papers away. "You drugged me. You're taking my money. Having fun, aren't you?" The butler tried to explain, but Jin Zehua cut him off, shoving the protagonist onto the couch. "You don't have a signal, but every time I touch you, I lose control. Why does it have to be a filthy bug like you?" He was torn. Every touch made him feel better. It was like an illness, a body he couldn't control. Then he ripped the contract in half. "Someone like you doesn't deserve this." He turned to leave, but the butler spoke. "Young master, Mr. Yan Hong will be staying here from today onward." "Who said that? Why would I let this bug live in my house?" "It's the chairman's order." Jin Zehua froze, then let out a cold laugh. "Oh, is that so? Fine. Since you said it, I'll make sure you regret it." Before the butler could react, Jin Zehua dragged the protagonist back to the sofa, intent on making things as difficult as possible, even right in front of his butler.